Hello guys, welcome to the channel. This is Paper Roll. In today's video, we'll be talking about the changes came to the game with the last batch, February 14, and what do I think about it and the new approach for Arenanet. And let me tell you from the start, I don't quite like it, and I think Arenanet is not really paying attention to how things work in the game. But you can decide for yourself. I will simply tell you how things work and why they work this way, and you can formulate an opinion for yourself. So, for a start, there is this new approach that Arenanet is going with to remove the cooldown reduction from traits in weapons, trait lines, from skills and stuff like that. And Ranger got it for now. For the signet trait, Brutish Seal, it no longer reduces the cooldown for signets, wilderness knowledge for survival skills, and also warhorn skills with windborne notes. So the only weapon got it is warhorn, and those are two skill types that got it. So either I would say at least the Ranger got the shortest end of a stick at this point, for the start at least, or simply it doesn't affect Rangers as much as you think. So why do we take this trait? Why do we take wilderness knowledge? Why Rangers are stuck with survival skills? Because they are the only option to protect yourself against condition, or at least the only good and reliable option. For utility option, there is nothing remove condition except it, unless you go specifically to druid or untamed or something like that. You can gain some other option, but for core ranger at least it's the only thing. And even for something like druid, you have Celestia avatar, but as to run skills here, you can only cleanse inside Celestia avatar and not outside. There is no skill to cleanse. So only survival skills and this silly signet, and I don't like it. It's not really a good skill, but we will get to it in a point because it has some change. So if you remove the cooldown reduction from this trait, what do we left with? We left with the main reason we take this trait. It is the condition removal and the fury. So the fury is usable if you're actually building a condition build that count on critical chance, like it's running sharpened edges, or and sigils that count on critical and stuff like that, or if you're running a power build that want a lot of fury, like you're running Vicious Quarry or something like that. And every power build will need a fury. Or a hybrid build mix of both, you will also need a fury. So those two things are very important, access to a lot of fury and condition cleanse. And it couldn't hurt obviously having faster access to stun breaks and condition cleanses from quickening zephyr, lightning reflexes and stuff like that. So if you remove the lower cooldown, we still gonna take this trait to remove condition and get the fury. Now they put another option so you would be able to choose between both, but empathic bond is very bad. They said it's gonna be 4 condition cleanse, but it came to the game only 2, both in PvE and in PvP. The trait have a 20-second cooldown. It will work also always when you use this skill, but I'm not really sure yet how it functions with a soul beast. For example, like if you keep switching bit fast enough, you would still have the skills on cooldown, but anyway it will also work with this. But for soul beast, if you're using the beast ability, this one, it will not count. So it's either 20-second cooldown or you switch between bits. And it's controlled by the bit skill on cooldown, because if it's still in cooldown, you can't cleanse. You might say the only advantage for it is it cleanses a bit too, but actually that means you spam those skills when you need the condition cleanse, not when you need a projectile barrier or protection, not when you need to ball your enemy with iboga, when you need a cleanse. So it ruins when you need the skill exactly. And also if the bit's dead, you're gonna have 1 minute to switch between bits, or 45 seconds depending on your traits or builds, which means you stuck without even a condition cleanse. So it's very bad when you're fighting in a group, because the bit would be dying easy. And it still only offers 2 condition cleanses, which means 1 skill of survival would count for it, would do the entire trait action. This is very bad as a trait. I don't know why they did this. It should have came at least as 4, and it would still be bad comparing to survival if you're ready to run them. If your build have enough survival, it wouldn't still be convincing enough. But they made it too, so this is just very bad. The second point which make it very bad, those 2 traits compete with each other in the entire trait line. Like it's the same trait line, so you still have to take survival, wellness survival trait line to have the condition cleanse. You can't remove the trait line for other trait line. And that's why I said I don't think Arenanet is really paying attention to how this work. We are not locked into this because of the cooldown, we are locked for it because of the condition cleanse, and it's good to have the fury. Now the other point which I don't like about this is power creep. So this will continue to other classes and other traits and other weapons, which mean everything in the game will access their skills faster. The game keeps changes across the years, obviously. We got quickness and alacrity, and now even lower cooldown, better gear numbers like dragon, ritualist and stuff like that. And now we will have all our skills happening faster, just in faster sequence. So which mean we're gonna be a little bit stronger in general. We would have better options in build. Yes, Reanit can come back and nerf stuff and buff stuff. However, you also lose the synergy. You can think of this generally as a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to you. You can say it opened different builds when you don't really need to take specific things and to affect your DPS, so you would have better options, and that's maybe really a good thing. Obviously, you still need the same traits because of the reason you take this, but the main point is now getting removed, so it might open a door for other options. Like, let's look at it from word versus word perspective. If you're not needing, or if you're willing to give up on survival cleansing now, you would have the same cooldown without putting anything in it, and you can run something like command skill. So you would have quickening zephyr, and you would have protect me and second, for example, for fall DPS and stuff, and both skills have the lower cooldown now, like second and quickening zephyr, which you can obviously with a soul beast combine with one wolf back, and you can run vicious quarry, for example, or something like that. And that's what I mean by a little bit of bar creep. This is adjustable from Reanit. It's not really that big of a problem now, but I thought you should pay attention to it for how they hurt our builds or what we affected with. So they didn't lower every cooldown for survival skills. The heal, troll unguent, lightning reflexes, entangle, and quickening zephyr. However, muddy terrain and sharpened stone did not get their cooldown lowered, which means they got nerfed. Because right now you can run this trait and you will still have a 30 second on this one and 25 second on this one. So they said they want to control the immobilize a little bit, so you can't run this trait and simply be without it even and have the lowered cooldown on muddy terrain. No, they need to control the immobilized druid on warders avoid and stuff like that, which is fine, I guess. But what's the reason then to nerf sharpened stone? And the problem, that's not only in ward versus ward or PvP. In PvE, it's worse. Sharpened stone is a 30-second cooldown and entangle is 60. Why do you nerf entangle? Like, are you trying to nerf the DPS of condition rangers or something? I have no idea why they did that. Like, at least nerf it in combative mode, but not in PvE, but they did. And also, Child of Earth, the same as Muddy Terrain, got nerfed. Right now, there is 1 second delay between your heal and immobilize or the trigger that goes from it. So pay attention to that. If you're healing on a 24-second cooldown, which most of the heal will be on, pay attention to wait just a tiny bit before you can actually use it for the cripple. Most of the time you won't feel it. It's about like half a second difference or something because of the aftercast and stuff. So it will be very fast. But if you have quickness, for example, and immediately cast your healing on cooldown the moment it come up, it will not trigger it. So that's the change that happened to our build. It's not really a big of a deal. We got nerfed on this one, and you need like half a second delay or something in order to trigger your heal. But other than that, the build feels the same. Nothing really affected it this hard or anything. And in fact, we at least got a little bit of a tiny buff to the healing from rugged growth. So I guess it's fine. However, let's talk about some other changes that happened to the ranger. And let's talk about Soul Beast. So there was this tiny change to Primal Cry, which is a skill I very love in PvE when I play Soul Beast, which I didn't do for about a year now because there is no real reason to go Soul Beast over Untamed. Soul Beast unsupported fall DPS, whether you're playing Trailblazer or something like Celestial. I don't go with Viper on any build. You can go about 11k or 11.5k consistently by yourself in the open world as a DPS. Whatever your might you can stack to yourself and something like that. However, Untamed can scale up to 14.5k DPS while being tankier, having access to more stability and a bit outside to help him with protection stuff like turtle, and so there is no need for me to play it anymore. However, this change is very good for extra healing, extra burst to everything around you. It's like a cleave, it's nice. And even in competitive, I would be looking into it. Maybe it will be better right now to think of condition soul beast over the hybrid or celestial, so you can really put some damage into world versus world stuff. So this change is quite nice. It synergizes with Predator's Cunning for healing from poison, and it offers you more poison, and it's a very decent damage. As you see, I put a lot into my bleed, and poison is already close enough. It's very strong and very decent. Now this was probably the best change. They also increased a little bit the healing of Eternal Bond, which is nice if you're running my World vs. World build with Celestial. It's every time you're gonna use a skill, it will offer you some decent healing to an extent, which is quite nice. And if you're using Dagger for competitive, at least it will offer you a lower cooldown to both skill 2 and skill 3. It's only, since I'm running Dexterity, it's only 9 3/4 seconds for the ammunition, so a lot of quickness, better mobility a little, and only 4 seconds for this one, and it can damage a lot if you're running full Condi. And it's still okay with power. I guess this weapon doesn't have defense, doesn't have good gap claws, it's a small cleave in a small radius, so it's not really the best weapon, but it is still decent. Now let's talk about a very important change to Untamed. So I'm not convinced with this change. I don't play this skill in PvE or competitive. I don't play even Untamed anyway, and my build for Untamed does not run it because it simply works best if you can really lock the enemy and destroy it immediately. And I don't run power most of the time, and I don't run full Galaxy builds. So this does not affect me in any mean or shape, but it is kind of wrong. So they said that the reason they added a cast time to this skill is to prevent using it with nature bending immediately to lock people. However, they let the same functionality happen with the Guardian. They even pushed more mobility on Willbender and added an extra teleport on Hammer. That's completely contradicted itself. Ranger have only one teleport. It is this one on Untamed. You can't even run 2 teleports. In Soul Beast you can have a little bit of movement with Smoke Scale, but this is an Untamed skill, so you can only run one skill. And every class that can teleport and burst immediately, do that immediately. No cast time, and you can do it while doing another animation before it ends. And only it is bad for Untamed. I'm completely not convinced. So you can do the same way as you see in the video now with Guardian. You can start casting Hammer 5 and immediately use Judge's Intervention to teleport, and it ends the cast on the enemy. Yes, it is one line, unlike multiple that Nature Bending can create. However, it is 10 target, and Nature Bending for Untamed is 5 targets. And you don't have the same level of mobility on Ranger. It is just that, but now you have an extra set of step. You still have the swords that got it cooldown reduced, sword 2. Willbender is encouraged to spam their skills because they will not going to lose the passive effects that you trigger once you use virtues, and you can still combo that with Dragon Hunter like Longbow 5 and Maw Trap, Dragon Maw Trap, the elite one, and you can do multiple things like this with Guardian. But one skill is the problem with Untamed. Like I said, I'm not convinced at all. It is directed probably more for PvP, in my opinion, for the Great Sword, Drake stuff, but still. And even the excuse of Ranger can stealth, but Guardian can't. I mean, not really. If you play Dragon Hunter, you can do the same thing, so, and even more stealth than you can probably with Ranger. So, 2 classes work the same, one is getting buffed and the other is getting nerfed. I don't think I'm missing something here. Maybe Arianet is simply missing the point. So, like I said, that doesn't affect me whatsoever, and it's not the end of the world. You can still use it as Ranger. You simply would have more cast time now because you can't utilize it immediately. but you can still run your combo even for World vs. World, Zerging with Untamed and stuff like that. Feel free to do it. But if ArenaNet want to have more reaction time and change this, fine, change it for all classes. Make the game less instant in a way. It will help even players with high ping like me, when I can get ping for an entire day for 500 sometimes. But only for one class, this is just weird. Now there is another thing also, the change to signets. So they told us that this one gonna have a 30-second cooldown, and it came to the game with 35. They give it only about 4 seconds of resolution. Let's look at it on druid. Since I don't have bone duration, it's 3 seconds. 3 seconds of resolution. This will not help the bit at all. 3 seconds of resistance and resolution to lower the damage of the condition by 33%. The bit will still melt if you removed all that condition to it. Even so, it works on the allies, not only you. Even so, it will remove everything. The cooldown is barely decent. Maybe if you combo it with the trait itself, Brutish Seal to gain some might and fury for you and your allies, maybe it's finally fine, but I don't see it being okay at all because of the 600 radius that your bit need to be next to you, and the fact that the bit need to be alive. The healing is not great. I have like almost 1k healing and it's barely above 100 second, 120. And look at my healing power. Yeah, it's close to 1k. So it's weird. I mean, it's better now. Some builds might use it, especially if you're removing the survival trait for any other options, for glacier builds or stuff. It can work, especially with Untamed, for example, since you have access to mutate condition, and mutate condition can remove everything, and you can put barrier with it, so you would have 2 skills to immediately save you. And even with some soul beast builds, if you're running the bear stance heal, so maybe you can use it, but I still don't like it. I still don't think it's worth it. At least with my druid, obviously I'm not gonna be running this skill. And we didn't get any serious value like for our DPS from the lower cooldown Signet of the Wild. Since they are Signet, we want the passive, you want the ferocity. Having access faster to the immobilize, I guess, is decent, and the trait now gives you might, but it doesn't really overcreep the power for ranger or anything. But also the reversion on mantra skills for both Guardian and Mesmer, I'm not really also okay with it. It's like the game is trying to undo everything that it tried to do from a balanced perspective. It's like we're going back in time, which I don't know why some people think it's a good thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. We changed those things for a reason, and that reason didn't go away. If you're reverting the things back exactly the same as it was, then you still have the same problem that you changed them for. And that, for example, encouraging one-shot builds, and I hate one-shot builds in games. Mesmer from stealth can completely shut someone down, and with the mantra simply cast it, grant the boon, and you can lock someone with immediate daze and stuff like that. So it is what it is. It doesn't make that much difference for me in the game, but I don't like the concept that this patch pushes the game to. It's taken us back a few years at this point, and it's happening systematically, one patch after another. So tell me what you think. This is not a doom and gloom stuff. Patches and balance always change, something good, something bad, and for me, as long as I find my druid the same, the druid doesn't lose his identity, I will be having fun in World vs. World no matter what they do probably. Whether they nerf things and buff things, we will just work around it and we will have our fun. Tell me what you think in the comment, and other points, even for your class, the class you main, what do you think of the changes of it. It's just to inform people who would read the comments and enjoy the video. So this is it, and I will be seeing you next time. Peace.